Right, I may be a bit late on this one, but I've just finished watching Doctor Who, the Interstellar Song Contest, and actually, it was pretty good. Yeah, I'm actually surprised. It was actually a pretty good episode. Like, actually, fairly decent, and that. So yeah, surprisingly, I mean, I won't talk about spoilers until later on, but basically, this is kind of like basically a base under siege type story, kind of, except rather than a basics, a song contest, basically, kind of under siege in a way. But yeah, like to be honest, I thought that this episode, from the trailers we saw of this episode, I thought this episode was just gonna be, the very very camp episode, but it wasn't actually. It was actually pretty good, and yeah. Also, congratulations. I thought Shooty Cat was gonna cry at a certain point, but he didn't, and because he didn't, it actually, made the Doctor, I guess more heroic, and also the fact that in this episode he seemed much more proactive. Basically, in this episode, you kind of felt the Doctor actually, being the Doctor in this episode. Like, he wasn't just, crying about it. He was actually, actively doing things. Like, actually solving the problem and actually saving people. Yeah, I know. I know there wasn't a big cry in that about it or anything, because there was a moment and they let the moment sit, and then we'll move on. And it also, you know what, I prefer this side of Shooty Catwa's Doctor, where basically, tensions are tough, but rather than him basically crying about it, this time, he's very proactive about it, and maybe goes a little bit too far in revenge type category, almost, pretty much. But you know what? I much prefer that. I'd much rather, the Doctor be ultra focused and, dangerous, basically, in that state, rather than him just crying about it. And yeah, for the most part, I enjoyed it. So yeah, this was actually a decent episode. This was actually a decent episode, and it did feel a bit like other episodes past. I mean, its plot itself is nothing we haven't heard from before, but this one was actually decently executed. This one was actually pretty well executed, and yeah, it actually also gave. I actually did give a slight bit of a shit about the other characters in the episode as well. So yeah, it didn't feel like a long, boring, straggle on like last week's was, where it was just exposition dump. This time, it felt like the plot constantly kept moving and it wasn't meandering around anywhere. So yeah, actually pretty decent. And so yeah, it wasn't just let's have a sing song for 45 minutes. It was actually, a decent episode with songs in with a couple of songs in there, and you know what? They were actually decent, the bits that we got of the songs. So this one I do actually recommend to people. Uh I don't know if I actually prefer this one actually to blah, blah, blah. I can't remember the name of it now. That's the thing with this series. It's just, the one that's a sequel. Spoiler alert: the sequel to Midnight. I don't know. I might actually prefer this one to that one. Who knows? But in this episode, we do get basically, some things that are leading into the finale. Now I did know this in advance to this, because the information was leaked, because the BBC accidentally, I think they accidentally leaked this information themselves, because they accidentally leaked descriptions and also cast listings for the finale. So yeah, I already knew this information going into the episode, and also the fact that tweets about this episode, the spoilers in this episode and in the finale kept getting taken down by the BBC, does show that, yeah, they're probably true. I won't go into everything in the spoilers and that, only in regards to this episode. So yeah, spoilers in 3, 2, 1. So we start having, for some reason in this episode, we start having visions of Susan, and it is actually Caroline Fogg playing Susan, which, yeah, I mean, it was going to happen. I mean, it was foreshadowed several times in season 1, and in season 2, just like, yeah, we do get flashes of Susan, who is almost certainly cropping up, well, is meant to crop up in the finale, basically. Is meant to, I don't know how much screen time she'll have in it, but yeah, I mean, according to the leaks as well, no, I knew I wouldn't talk about that very much, but like, they won't get her just to do a couple of flash, in the Doctor's head like that, but I'm sure that'll be explained later. I'm sure that'll be basically, contact, blah, 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 thing. Yeah. But there was that, and obviously the big one of the episode, which, I mean, we all kind of predicted because it could only be so many people. Mrs. Flood turns out to be the Rani. I mean, big shock horror. I mean, it could have only have been so many people. Though it does beg the question of just like, why has she been fourth wall breaking and, acting, the way she has, which is a little bit odd. But yeah, the characterization, I don't know. I mean, the new actress they got to play the Rani at the very end, because she bi-regenerates, a bi-regeneration, and it's just like, oh, for God's sake, I'm sick of doing this. And it doesn't really, it still doesn't fully explain how it fucking works properly either. But anyway, the 30 seconds at the end, she did give me sort of Kate O'Mara vibes, and that at the end, but obviously, give her performance, I'll judge her performance properly, in the finale, but we'll see. It also depends very much how she is written. Now, this episode wasn't written by Russell T Davies, though every Russell T Davies every Russell T Davies series, he has a hand in the writing of every episode, even if it's not on screen. The only exceptions to this are people like Stephen Moffat, where Russell T Davies will basically just let people like Stephen Moffat, to his own devices because he trusts him to basically, do his own thing. And obviously, with the whole Mrs. Flood thing, that'll be something that he has written in there. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it is just a bit odd that it's just like, 180, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, the bi-generation thing, just like, there's still not an explanation of just like, so does the previous incarnation just live on until it dies of natural causes? Does it regenerate again? Like, what the fuck happens afterwards? What happens afterwards? I mean, it's just basically, I'm convinced the only reason why, Russell T Davies wrote that in there is for two reasons. One is because he can't seem to stand the fact of any character ever, dying or having a sad ending anymore, because, he's rewritten them to not have that anymore, like Donna, and that, completely retconned that sad, melancholy type ending. And even then, he gave a happier ending in the end of time anyway, but whatever. And also to probably have the word "bi" in there, because of course. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I honestly would not be surprised. But yeah, it just feels, I don't know, that whole thing, I mean, I'm going a little bit off topic here, but that whole thing of bi-regeneration, it kind of doesn't make it feel like the end of a Doctor, like, or the end of whatever incarnation. Like, it should feel, like a death. It should feel like this is the death of this incarnation, this is the end of it. But if it doesn't end there, then it's just, you know. Plus, it would also make multi-Doctor stories, like, or multi-anything stories, like, really, really confusing. It's like, it's like, oh, are you before, after you regenerated, blah, 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 type of thing. It's like, yeah. Anyway, that's another tangent for another day. But, yeah, overall, pretty enjoyed this episode and that, and would actually highly recommend it. I'm the most surprised out of anyone of how much I actually enjoyed this episode. But next week is part 1 of the finale, and part 2 of the finale will actually go out on BBC iPlayer at the same time as it's broadcast. So, yeah, so next week I'll probably just watch it on broadcast. I don't know. Depends, because the good thing about watching them on iPlayer and that is I can watch them in 4K with HDR. Whereas on the broadcast, can't do that. And also, even if you're watching it live on BBC iPlayer, I don't think it would allow you to do. I don't know. Maybe it would. Who knows? Actually, I think it did for the 60th anniversary specials. So maybe, maybe not. Hopefully, because I do still like to watch them in the best quality possible. But anyway, there we go. There we go.